Hi, my name is David Wetton, and welcome to the Conscious Leadership Now podcast. The intent of this podcast is to encourage you as a leader to embrace conscious leadership by giving you access to some of the world leaders in the field of conscious leadership, both in practice and in thought. My heartfelt wish is that you leave this podcast feeling inspired with ideas to take away and implement in your business or organization to make a real difference in our world. And my guest today is Michael Duberry. Hi, Michael.
How you doing, Dave? You okay?
I'm good, thank you. Now, Michael was in the top 0.001% bracket of his profession. He was a Premier League footballer in England with a career that lasted an amazing 20 years, from 1993 through to 2013, making 500 appearances for clubs including Chelsea, Leeds United, Stoke City and Reading. That involved winning the English League Cup, the European Cup Winners' Cup and the European Super Cup, among many other personal accolades. He was, without doubt, an elite performer. Now, since retiring from football, Michael's obtained the qualifications needed to become a top executive coach. And with his executive coaching company, Made Leaders, he decided to specialize in elite performance, something he knows about firsthand and separates him from other executive coaches. He realized that his winning mentality and his premier mindset could be used to help develop others. And now he works with everyone from CEOs, executive management to team leaders, helping to improve and develop individuals and teams' performance. This premier mindset is what he's lived, it's what he does, and what he knows how to do. And in a recent Black Lives Matter tweet, Michael spoke of needing great leadership to steer us as Black people out of this situation. And he mentioned 4 great Black leaders: Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, and Barack Obama. So I've invited Michael to come along in this special Black Leaders Matter Conscious Leadership Now podcast special, where he's going to talk about why these great exemplars of great Black British conscious leaders, great Black conscious leaders, are so important to today. So, Michael, it's a privilege to have you on this podcast, and I'm excited to hear you talk about these great Black conscious leaders and the importance of their legacy for the situation we find ourselves in the world today. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was take 5 by the Dewbry Quartet. And this time it's my cue that it's time for you, Michael, in this case, to take 4. Your take on 4 great Black conscious leaders. So my first question is, what does conscious leadership mean to you?
Good question. Conscious leadership. To be fair, it's since we've been talking, it's something that's made me dig deeper in the question, because you hear the word leadership, leaders, leadership. When you put the word conscious in front of it, it takes it to a different level, a deeper level, makes you think more into the role and the word leadership. So conscious leadership for me would be someone that understands the role and responsibility of where they stand. Someone that's authentic to themselves, that then gains the trust of those that they're say serving, but that goes into leadership. But the role that they're in, they gain trust. The language in the we and not me. To understand it, so conscious leadership is really someone that can understand their role, who they are, and where they stand. That's aware of their being in everything, in every environment, every situation. That takes on board, their values, their behavior, their examples. So conscious leadership is someone that's fully aware, and they may have been thrust into the role of leader or leadership by default, but very early on are aware of what that means to be ahead and in that role. So yeah, it's some deep understanding of their role and responsibility of being a leader.
And as you say, Michael, often, and we're going to the four leaders in a second, quite often, as you said, they're thrust into this role. I know Martin Luther King it wasn't a role that he'd anticipated in advance. But I like this aspect you said of them being authentic. And I think part of this authenticity, particularly around these four leaders we're going to talk about, is that their journey, each of their journeys was by no means easy. In fact, it was damn difficult.
Yeah.
And they really, in my language, had to, I believe, dig in deep, and were up against at times great opposition. So they had this, I think, tremendous resilience. From football terms, it was almost like being 3-0 down with, 30 minutes to play. They didn't have it easy.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the fact of race, the timing, the climate, there was nothing easy of them being a leader. In fact, they were the first person to be attacked, locked away, ridiculed, abused. They were the first, and they realized that, again, they realized that part. They didn't shy away from it, and they took it. So they realized what they're up against first of all. So they had to be resilient. They had to do that, and they had to set an example of those that are following. So the fact of race made it even more difficult than just being a leader and trying to win a campaign, or being a leader and trying to win the rights for everyone to have, I don't know, milk at lunch. It was much more than that. They had a lot more going against them, so that their race made it so they had to be resilient. And obviously for me it was something that resonated with me and drew me towards them.
I know, and I've heard you, through your tweets and say that I think these four leaders, and no doubt other Black leaders, have also been an inspiration to you. I think in the way you said they've shown up, the way they use words, the way they communicate, and that has connected with you. So let's move on to the second question. As I said to you earlier before we came on the air, this again is trying to fit really why these great Black leaders are important to you. To do it within 20 minutes is going to be a wonderful feat in itself, because I know that probably just one of them we could speak for a lot more than just 20 minutes. Yeah. So I appreciate you doing this. So my second question is, who for you are exemplars of great Black conscious leaders for today, and why? And obviously you've named the four, so we'll start, as I say, at the top, just on my list. The first one we'll look at is Martin Luther King Jr. Why is he a great Black conscious leader for today?
So Martin Luther King, in how he went about his work, his path, and all of the people I speak about today, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela, Barack Obama, their lure was, words, Pied Piper had the music, but they had their words, and that was the thing. They can inspire, they can gravitate people to their words. And Martin Luther King, was the one, in a time where, people were being abused, and he stood by his values and saying, no, we're going to do it this way. Listen, I understand, that in the Bible saying, turn the left cheek. No, he said, listen, we're going to do it this way. Yes, it'd be the easiest thing would be to lash out. It's the easiest thing, but sometimes the easiest thing isn't the right thing. And he took it, he took the abuse, he took everything, but he had a way of letting people stand up by his words. I'm not saying everyone, because he lost some people, because some people said, I've had enough is enough. But he stuck to his values. He didn't say, okay, I want to get everyone, so I'm just going to keep swaying and changing my values. And he was the inspirational leader for me. He can inspire, motivate, and empower people with just his words, and his actions backed it up.
Yeah.
It was his words, and he'd sit down and say, this is what we're going to do. This is what I believe. This is what I'm saying to you. I'm going to do it. So, he wasn't trying to manipulate people. You had a choice. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can stay at home. Yes, you can, but I'm going to say, this is what I'm doing. I'm in the same situation as you. I'm no different, but you just see me walk out of the jail cell from standing by my values. So, I'm going to be there with you. I'm going to walk out with you, and I'm not going to get my lawyer to release me. We're going to walk out together the same way we walked in. So all these sort of like actions and behavior made people warm and gravitate towards him. And for me, you know, as a 9-year-old boy, and I had to write a piece on someone who inspired me and who was a hero. And remember, there was no internet, there was no Wi-Fi. So I think it was a piece of reading and what I, you know, heard things from parents, and he just, you know, it was him. I wrote about him. You know, it was one of my best bit of writing at school for such a young boy, and I was proud of it. You know, and even then it was like how he spoke. He told everyone he had a dream. Do you know what I mean? And this is what his dream. And it was that, just that. How powerful is that? I had a dream. How powerful is that? Do you know what I mean? To say to people, listen, I had a dream, and in this dream, and it had people sitting down, you know, gravitating towards his word. He's like telling a story by a campfire, and they believed it. It's because he made you believe it. His actions backed it up. So for me, Martin Luther King was like so inspirational, because the way he articulated himself, when, you know, inside he was angry, inside he was, you know, there must be many times when he wanted to quit, you know, but he did it behind closed doors. He got himself up and he went again. So, and like I say to people, it's not easy to be peaceful. Yeah. It's not easy to be peaceful when, you know, you're being prodded, poked, pushed, abused. To remain peaceful and calm, you know, people see it as a sign of weakness. In fact, it's a sign of strength. It's the biggest sign of strength, because the easiest thing to do is to lash out. And he realized that lashing out would affect far more than just him. It would affect a whole movement, a whole race of people. So for me, his whole ethos, his whole values, like for me, it was inspirational. And you know, how I try and conduct myself is in similar fashion. You know, in your values and remaining peaceful, finding the right way to do things. And, you know, violence and aggression is not the answer. Do you know what I mean? So for me, Martin Luther King was very inspirational, and he epitomizes a conscious leader, because he was very aware of himself, his role, and everything he done was for the we and not the me and the I. So he was very much a massive, powerful key figure. And you know, we look now, and how could he affect now? How would he be doing now? It would be a way of people having a direction. It'd show a direction of, this is how we're gonna get it done. This is how we're gonna figure it out. You know, you can follow me. Yes, there'd be other ways to do it, but he would give the masses, this is a way we can do it, and have an answer, have a direction, will make the right people have to answer the right questions. Do you know what I mean? And make them accountable for having to answer the right questions, having to make accountable for their actions. So this has happened, answer it. And, you know, by applying pressure, not in a way where they're going to use the people's bad behavior and say reason why they don't have to answer the question, where he's answered the door saying, listen, this is how it is. Can you answer the question? And it's so obvious now there's an avoidance. Whereas at some stages, you know, people's behavior, where it be for mass comings together and mass riots, then that bad behavior means that people don't have to answer any questions, because they use that as an excuse to overshadow, you know, smoke and mirrors. There you go, boom. So he would do it the right way, like he did in that day. So I think it proved to be a massive force where there's a voice and make people, the right people, having to answer the right questions.
Wow. And I mean, I'm just taking a breath there, Michael, because you're quite absolutely, I think, spot on. There's so much in there, I think, for conscious leaders for today, as you said, asking those challenging questions. And I don't think I shared this with you. I actually got trained in Kingian nonviolence by someone who was with Martin Luther King on the civil rights movement, a Dr. Bernard Lafayette, who is literally a gentle giant of a man. He must have been about 6'4", and I spent a weekend with him, and it was amazing. But one of the many things that I learned from him, particularly about Martin Luther King, is he said with this sense of, I think for leaders today, he had this real sense of intent of what we're doing. We're going with non-violence. We believe it's going to make a difference. We're going to stick to that. But they were so well prepared. But actually they had a sense of resilience and commitment. And Dr. Bernard Lafayette shared a story where he said on one of the civil rights rallies where we were embodying non-violence, he said, I got cornered by a white youth with a knife. And he said, I knew at that point, all of my values, all of my commitment to civil rights movement was literally on the lifeline. And he said, all I could do, he said, was I looked this white youth in the face and he said, I don't know what you're going to do next, but he said, I just want to let you know, whatever you do, I love you. And actually said at that, the white youth threw down his knife and disappeared, went off. But he said in that moment, he said, I really fully understood the power of the stance I was taking alongside Martin Luther King, because in that moment, my life was on the line, but I still knew that actually what I was actually stepping out for was absolutely worth that full life commitment.
Wow.
And so for me to hear something like that, I'm telling you this story, but it transformed me in that moment. I can still feel him sort of saying that. So that sense of a leader who lives this embodied life, as you just spoke about, Martin Luther King, that was involved in that, so much to actually, I think, teach for today.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. And so it leads me on to my next one, Malcolm X. And obviously Malcolm X mentioned Martin Luther King in that generation. People see Malcolm X as his sort of adversary or his nemesis, when they were just two different ways of the same path. I say to people, 5 and 4 is 9, but so 7 and 2. And they just went a different way and had different philosophies on achieving the same thing. And, where some people followed Martin Luther King's non-violent approach, there were some that were pent up, fed up, and wanted, full of frustration, where Malcolm X, his words, by any means necessary, made them, empowered them, think, you know what, actually, yeah, he's right. We don't have to sit and suffer. We don't have to sit and suffer. And, they wasn't going against each other. It was just a different path. It was a different path, different journey, with the same movement on we want better for our people. We want better for our people. And one had one way of doing it, and one had another way of doing it. And it gave an option to black people, and saying, well, actually, if we don't follow Martin Luther King, we've got to sit in our house. Well, actually, they thought, well, I'm going to follow Malcolm. I like brother Malcolm. And obviously Malcolm was part of black Muslims, so he had that behind him as well. So he had a lot of black Muslims, which were quite frightening, because you had these intelligent, articulate black people that knew all their rights, they knew their values, and it was quite scary, because the whole stereotypical back in them days that black people should be seen and not heard, or not even seen, just not heard, just be. And you had these black people saying, no, we're different, we know what we're doing, and we know our rights. And then you had the leader Malcolm saying, we're going to do any means necessary. And you don't like when you have a black person that's intelligent, articulate, and it frightens you. And they said what they thought, but his words nevertheless were so powerful, so hitting, and they can empower you to think, actually, you know what, he's right. He's right. And that's what gravitated, maybe so much some of the younger ones that fed up seeing their mum, their auntie, their uncles getting beaten, had it so long, and they're at their age where I can make a difference, and someone's telling them you can make a difference. It helped. But as a leader, he inspired positive change, because it took his words to make people stand up and say, okay, yeah, he's right. Those that were maybe frightened of the higher power, saying, actually, yeah, he's right, and we can get behind this movement, and if we're behind this movement, we can make a difference. So inspired positive change. I know there's a lot of cloud over him, but that is maybe media influenced, and how people want him to be seen. But he's very much an inspirational leader, energy, enthusiasm, passion, and the main thing he was, without a doubt, was authentic. There's nothing like fake. He was authentic. What you saw, what you got. If he was being interviewed, he was always himself. He was amongst his friends. He was himself. He was amongst a group of people. He was himself. Very intelligent, great with his words. And, for me, just like, Martin Luther King was just like inspiring. And Malcolm, like, for me, this kind of discovered him for myself later on, and then fully understood him again later on in life. You always, it was just, I think the portrayal of him was more this rebellious black man. But then when you started to understand him as a role, very much a big leader, very much more than just a rebellious guy. He was very intelligent, articulate, spoke sense, and just had a different plan and a different way than Martin Luther King had. But both were every much as powerful, every much as influential, and did so much for their people, and just in far had an impact in life in general in that time. And I think, again, a great example, as I put him down as a conscious leader, because he was very fully aware of who he was, his presence, his now, what was around him, how people looked to him, what he could do. He never manipulated the situation. There's different than someone being influential and someone manipulating people. There's a massive difference, and people abusing power. There's examples throughout history of people abusing the power they have. He didn't abuse power. He just influenced and gave people a choice, and made people aware of their choices, and said, listen, you can make an impact, you can make a positive change. And that's what's so great about him.
Wonderful. Yes. And I think you're quite right. Malcolm X, for whatever reason, does have this so-called bad press. Martin Luther King is seen as almost the good black leader. At times, Malcolm X can be seen as the bad, black leader. But however, as you said, there were some similarities. One of his famous quotes is, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." And in that, guys, for me, he's very similar to Martin Luther King. And we've spoken about how Martin Luther King prepared with an intent in what he believed, and I think Malcolm X did the same on that. And the other interesting thing I want to mention about Malcolm X, which I think is really important for leaders today, as you said, again, he was authentic. He was not afraid to connect deeply with what he felt and what he thought was the right thing to do. So towards the end of his life, and both were assassinated, I think, at the age of 39, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But what Malcolm did is that I think it was towards the end of his life. He died in 65, I think it was 64. In 64, he got in touch with more traditional Islam and his Muslim faith. So he actually made a pilgrimage to Mecca and did the Hajj in 64. And one of the things he realized was that when he did that Hajj, one of the things he said was, seeing all the Muslims together, and he saw Muslims of different colors, not just black like him. And actually, in that moment, he stood up and said, for him as Islam, he began to realize how it could deal with how his faith, his Islamic faith, could help to deal with racial problems and how they could be overcome. So actually, he took a different perspective. He took a different tact. He began to see how that could be used to help to solve the problem. So I think, like many great conscious leaders, he wasn't afraid to actually draw on the information that came before him and state that clearly. As you said, coming back to what you're talking about, is communicating that with clarity.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, near the back end of his life, obviously, he was banned from the black Muslims by Elijah Muhammad, and And that was down to him being authentic to himself and believing in what he believed, the pilgrimage he went on, what he saw, how he thought it could change, you know, and he actually changed his mindset a little bit to say, okay, there's actually a different way we can do this. I've been posting all about it, but hey, there's a better way. Not saying that way is wrong, but actually there's a better way. And that better way wasn't to the liking of what he was doing before. So he was, you know, again, authenticity. He didn't change from it. He didn't like say, oh, okay, and then back down and change his values, because as his values change and people's values, our values do change. You know, your values at 21 are not the same values you have at 35, or they shouldn't be, because they change, they grow. Do you know what I mean? And his did, and he was authentic to it. And so he was always aware of his being. He's always aware of his role, and he's always aware of how people saw him and the responsibility he had when how he was carrying people. So, you know, he didn't have to share that his values had changed. He could have just kept them to himself. But hey, you're following me. Here's my trust, which is a massive thing in any sort of relationship with people. As your leader, they need to have that trust, because if you want them to follow you, you're saying, listen, this is what I'm saying. If you want to jump off now, you don't share the same values, you can do. But this is where I'm going with it now. Instead of going left, we're going to like veer a little bit right, because I feel that this is the best route for us to get the change that we all still want. And he was very clear in communicating that. And, you know, maybe they say it was to his demise and his death, but for it all, he was very much an inspirational, powerful man, you know. And I love his uses of words, you know, and how he delivered them. And again, he was never one that abused his position.
Thank
so
you.
that was him. Leads me to my next leader, Nelson Mandela. You know, obviously now you must go down one of the greatest men who ever walked the planet. Very well known and very revered now, but he wasn't always revered. And to get to that position, he had to go through a lot. And for me, what makes him a great conscious leader is obviously when people talk about leadership and leaders, you know, they go on, they look at leadership, and there's like these, you know, you have this person saying there's 6 leadership styles, that person saying there's 7, there's that one saying, so there's all this thing on leaderships and leaders that make, you know, what makes a great leader, there's different styles of leadership. And when you're looking at Nelson Mandela, he was the so-called servant leader. You know, it's for the people, like everything done for the people. You know, but at the same time, he had this vision, and he said, you know what, like, I'm all for you, but I've got this vision, like, stay with me. And I think what made people buy into his words so much for me was that what he went through. You know, those who don't know, obviously he was put in prison, he's in prison unfairly. How many years did he spend in prison? Was it, I can't remember how many years he spent in prison now. Is it 20 years? I can't remember. So he spent all these years in prison, and he's been through it. He's saying, I've got a vision. Do you know what I mean? And he didn't come out with full of hate. He come out with this vision and passion and saying, this is how we're going to make a difference. I know you're all angry. I know you're all frustrated, but this is how we're going to make a difference. And like Martin Luther King, his words backed up with his action made a powerful cocktail of inspiration, motivation, and empowering a whole race of people. And it didn't just stop in South Africa. It crossed the waters, and it kind of influenced on all continents, and people saw what was going on. And just his you talk about the word resilience, like, you know, how resilient can you be? Do you know what I mean? And then to not hate someone, take so much away from you, someone abuse you, someone do this, and not hate, and come out with love, and again, authentic, because you can't be like that for so long without being authentic. You can't hide that. You can't pretend. So he was authentic in himself. His words, again, all inspiring. His actions empowering. So for me, like Nelson Mandela, and the funny story is, I had a chance to meet Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
And he come to Leeds. My captain was at Leeds, captain at the time, Lucas Radaby, South African captain, and he was quite good friends with Nelson Mandela. So he was coming to Leeds to do a thing, and it was arranged that he was gonna go with Lucas and meet Nelson Mandela. Excited, you know, world leader. Oh my God! Like the morning, I was ill.
Oh,
so I'm sitting in bed all cold and flued up. I couldn't even get out of bed, and for me, it's like not only regret, you know, how can you regret getting ill, but like the chance of, you know, sitting here and you know, putting up on the slide, here's me with Nelson Mandela, just to be in the presence of greatness. You know, it's an overused phrase, isn't it? I'm in the presence of greatness, but to be in the presence of greatness was an opportunity missed. But he was so inspiring to all, because everyone wants to show they've been in the presence of a great world leader. You know, I've met Nelson Mandela. Oh my God, have you? Do you know what I mean? It's one of those people. So for me, in his, you know, conscious leader, he knew his role. He knew coming out of prison, imagine if he had took the stance like, wasn't conscious leader, he was just angry, bitter, but you had a whole movement of people to be angry and bitter. Instead, he said, like, we can make a change a different way. We can do this a different way. And he done it with perseverance. He done it with passion. He done it with vision. He made people listen to his words. He made sure, you know, it was put across right. And he always remained authentic, and no one can question that from forever. And he remained that. His words, you know, always telling people about his values and doing it the right way. So for me, he was, you know, very much, you know, epitomizes the conscious leader. And it you know, you look and thinking, how would he have been around? What would he have done today? How would he have dealt with all that's gone on? The George Floyd, the all the situations in America. How would he have dealt with? I believe that he would have been a great advisory for people. His word would have given everyone a direction. And I think and I use the word direction because I think that's really what's important. The direction is because there'd be so many different movements. And if you have everyone starting here in the middle and different directions, then you're just going out, and it's a less of an impact. But if you have everyone going, okay, let's go this way, even if we're going that way, you know, a little bit left, a little bit right, we're going the same direction, it's going to make more of an impact if everyone just spread 360 different directions. So I think that he would have given great direction, great advice, and maybe would have brought calm to a situation that at any given point has the possibility of boiling over into something that could be ugly and non-constructive. And I think that someone like himself, his words, his calm, speaking to the right people would have brought some calmness and some direction to a situation that, hey, we could read tomorrow that it's boiled over at any given point in any given situation. So for me, he was for the people, and he done it with his vision, his actions, and his words. So for me, he was massive.
Certainly was, wasn't he? And I think, if I remember correctly, he was part of a group, and I can't remember what the group was called exactly, but it was a group of world elders that actually got together to really share this wisdom and to move and share that in areas where it was really needed. And I sense, as I hear you speak, I think one of his qualities was, in the midst of turmoil almost, he was able to not only see beyond what was present, he was able to see what might be possible.
Yeah.
And then he was able to communicate in such a way that I think people couldn't but help to relate to him in a way that was so personable. And I always remember the image he came across, I think probably a number of times, to UK, but he went to one of the functions where he met the Queen. And I think there's a video of how in such a beautiful way he connected with her in a way was like two old friends meeting, which in fact they probably were, given her travels around the world and his travels around the world. But it's the way that he did it that really spoke to me. And I remember one of his quotes is, you know, a good heart and a good head are always a formidable combination. And what I sense with him as a conscious leader is that he came from this place of deep heart, but he was a sharp guy who had a clever brain, who wasn't scared to use it, as we said before, to step into those difficult conversations, not just those, but those life-changing, threatening and difficult situations. So as you said, no one I think would have said anything against him if he'd gone into leadership in South Africa and had taken a more revolutionary approach around, I'm here to bring change for, you know, for the people calling this nation, which of course he was. But the way he then set up Truth and Reconciliation and brought in forgiveness, brought in Desmond Tutu and other people that were there, and drew on other leaders, it was breathtaking in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Very inspirational man. Like I say, I always have that little back of my mind thinking, oh, I could be sitting up looking at a picture, me and him. But you know, he leaves a lot more than just a 6x4 on my wall. He's a very inspirational man. So he was very powerful and a great leader. And the last one on my list is Barack Obama. Very much, you know, in our time, very much modern, links to us. But for me, you know, we talk about the conscious leader and them being aware of their role, understanding their role, understanding who they are, being the we and not the me. And in this day and age, with so much social media, so much internet, so much where someone can find out if you had a parking ticket in 1987, if you stole a penny sweet out of Woolworths when you was 9, you know, there's so much of this. Someone to be in office for 2 terms, there's nothing on him. There's no dirt on him. He carried himself correctly. But what you know, I can sit here now and I can listen to him talk. He's like, his words just like sit there in awe. Just like the others, the way he'll draw people in like the Pied Piper with his words, powerful, you know, even like, you know, I get that people say it's gimmicky, but you know, like, yes, we can, like, you know, how are people going to believe that? You know, anyone can say, yes, we can. All right, Michael. No, but yes, we can. But how he gets people to say, listen, like, this is, yes, we can. And to draw in his ability to motivate people, inspire people. And he's not just, it's not just black people, it's white people, it's all races, to say, you know what, this guy is for us, is inspirational for us. So even as a leader, he's not just leading black people. And I think a little bit of difference with Martin and Malcolm, like they're my mates, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, that they had the black movement behind, and they were talking to their black people. When Barack talks, he talks to a nation. So he has to then be aware of all races and everyone. So his words have to be a little bit different. So he has to find that connect, and he does that so well. So he draws into it. And listen, like everyone, not everyone's for everyone. We understand that. But in himself to be in that position, as they say that, you know, when you're president, you're the most powerful man in the world. To be in that position, to understand your role, to not abuse that power, to understand you have to connect with everyone, to understand that, you know, you have to try and like gravitate to everyone. It's far easier just to abuse your power. He didn't do that. You know, understand he's not going to get everyone, but he done it in such a way where, you know, he done the right thing more often than not. And, you know, if it wasn't, it was just opinion based. He was like, he can empower people. He could inspire people. And again, like how he can articulate himself was, for me, was like beautiful. And for me, it's inspiring. And I think if you're, we've all had we've all worked for some, we've all had like someone in power, and we've not always looked to them as our leader. We've always had a boss, a teacher that's in power, but we don't see him as our leader. Why? Because of how they conduct themselves, whether they've abused their power, whether they don't speak to you properly. So position doesn't automatically guarantee you being a leader. And these four people, they understood their position. They understood who they were. They didn't abuse their power, and they learned how to connect with people. They learned how to inspire, to motivate. And it's not something everyone can do. And you have to be aware of yourself to do that, because you have to play to your strength, know your strengths, know yourself before you can do that. So there's a bit of like, mindfulness, and then remain authentic for it all, because to be up there, you've got everyone wanting a piece of you, to take you, to pull you, to do this, to do that, tell you what's right, and to remain authentic through the whole journey, where it's going to be never going to be a smooth ride. For me, he's like through that terms and being in that position where, and even for him, Barack Obama, being the first black president, he had black people wanting so much for him. Now change it all for us. Change it so we should be on par with white people. Change it. And then because he didn't change it how everyone wanted, you should have changed so much. But sometimes for me is like that him being in that position gives hope. And hope is, for me, without getting into, hope is one of the most powerful emotions, things for anyone. Because while you have hope, you can strive for more. So now they've seen it's possible. Now the kid in Compton, Bed-Stuy, wherever it is in America where they're in the ghetto, there's this hope. It can be achieved. It can be achieved. There's a path. It can be achieved. There's hope now. So the biggest thing he done was to knock down that barrier. Now it's the next one coming through who's not got that whole tag of the first black president. It's like the president. Now it hasn't got all the shenanigans of trying to stop him because he's black, because it's already been done. So he done something much more powerful, in just making it so black people and white people are on par, because he wouldn't have lasted 2 terms. And he did it his way. He remained authentic. He changed what he thought would be beneficial to all, as well as changing the things that weren't right for black people. So for me, he was fully aware of his role, his status, his position, and he'd done it all by himself and remaining himself. And, and the difficulty he had to reach and he had to touch everyone, where, like you say, near the end, Malcolm realized there's a different way. It wasn't just all pro-black. There's a different way we can do it. Martin Luther King wasn't all, we've got to punch the white man in the face. He was very much different, but he was saying as black people, we have to do this. So he was reaching out to black people while talking to white people. Nelson Mandela was doing things different, but again, he was trying to calm a nation and reaching out to black people while still trying to touch the white people. But Barack had to reach out to all and affect and touch all. And that was a little bit of difference that he had than the others. He had to, affect all and get all on his side and behind him. And, he did that well, all by remaining himself. He didn't change. He didn't become, he's not black anymore. He's the white man's president or anything like that. He was himself. He was the first black president. He remained that. He made being president cool. Do you know what I mean? That was himself. Again, he made it being cool. We made bringing it so you can relate and say, yeah. So for me, he was motivating, empowering. And again, he epitomized what a conscious leader should be and would be.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael. Again, your insights have got me thinking, because I hadn't really thought of this in before, in the sense that what Barack Obama did and who he was and how authentic he was the words that just came to me is perhaps in his role, he has been a bridge, as you said,
Yeah.
that actually is going to help future generations of black leaders, future black presidents that come on board. And one of the things actually that I'll share is that when he got elected for a second term, on the night that the election results got announced, I was actually in Oakland, California on that night. And there wasn't just there was a big black population in Oakland, but there were black and white together celebrating with such great joy that he'd been elected for a second term as president. So he had that ability actually to bring people together around his presidency, irrespective of what race or color they may be. So I think that was one of his great gifts. And also I just picked out one of his great quotes, which people quote, is he says, if you're walking down the right path, and you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. So I think, like the others, he carried this real deep resilience, this deep, as you said, belief, this hope that actually things were not perhaps going to get better, they would get better. Not perhaps knowing when that final time may come, but willing to take the steps, willing to keep walking. And again, as you've spoken eloquently about the others, willing to make those tough calls, take those tough decisions, and actually put himself out there. Because I think that, as we've said, every single one of these great black conscious leaders put themselves up there to be literally, some of them sadly, shot at.
Yeah.
And to be taken down, I'll name it for myself, sometimes by the white people who's, we're saying we don't like this. It was, again, coming back to start the podcast, it was not an easy place to be.
No, for sure. Yeah, so they're four very like heroes of mine, inspirations of mine, and four, for me, great examples of a conscious leader and great black leaders.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for that sharing. And again, that has not been, that was not an easy task to do, to bring together those four.
I hope I've got my time scale. But yeah, it was, as you say, you don't want to shortchange any of them, but I think, we can sit and talk about one for 20 minutes and delve deeper into what makes them, but I think in brief, that's what makes them, and in that time span, that's the best we could have done. Otherwise, we could sit and just examine one in great depth, couldn't we?
I know. And actually, my next question almost asks the impossible again of you. Okay. And my next question is: given the great examples you've shared of how they're showing up in an embodied way, these four great black conscious leaders. My question to you is, what single thing would you recommend aspiring conscious leaders to do as a result of hearing about these great leaders?
I think that know yourself, know your strengths. Like I have this when I talk to clients, people I work with, I have this saying: play to your strengths. In sport, you play to your strengths, and if you're either fast, strong, good dribbler, or you play to your strengths. So find your strengths as a person, whether you're a great communicator, your great works, you lead by example. What is your area of strength? And once you know that, then play to that. Then that's your way of being authentic, because then people gravitate you for your strengths. People pick you in teams because he's fast, you're going to help our team. That's what you're there for. You then go, oh, I'll work on something different. You play to your strengths. And I think once you know and understand yourself, then it's far easier to be authentic, because when at that time that you might feel like you're slipping away, you come back to your anchor, which is your strengths, yourself, your authenticity. So when you know your authenticity, you know your strengths, you understand your values, there's your anchor. You can always, when you're anchored, you might hear things happening, but you're always going to remain anchored to your strengths, your values, and be authentic. So the first thing as a person, again, say for example, you're thrown into this role by default because you're a great worker, you're hitting your numbers, you're the most vocal one in your team, then your strength might be communication, might be working with people, might understanding people. Play to that strength, remain authentic, understand your values. Everyone has their values. Honesty might be your values, integrity. Do you know what I mean? So keep that, and then that's your way of working. Then you just remain yourself, but understanding your role, so understanding your behavior. If you're part of a team, you then can't say, I'm going to take 2 hours for lunch because I'm the leader, because in your role ain't the best example. Because if your values is honesty, integrity, it's like, well, that's not part of it. Do you know what I mean? So then you're going to lose people. But if you're sitting there in your area is communication, understanding and speaking, and you're sitting there, understand your role as a leader, you know what, got an hour, I'll have my hour, do what I'm doing. So you understand and don't abuse the situation. So authenticity, but starting with understanding yourself, understanding your strengths, understanding your values. And when you understand that, it's far easier then to move forward, and then you can start picking up speed and knowing who you are. But yeah, knowing your strengths, understanding your values, and being authentic.
I love that. And I think understanding your strengths for me really draws back into a word that's used a lot in this podcast, and that is emotional intelligence. In that, once you know yourself and you know your strengths, my sense is, I think, through the emotional intelligence side of things, you're then able to see the strengths in others, and you're able to bring them on board and make the most of those strengths without feeling either jealous or kind of saying, you've got strengths I haven't got. You're then actually pulling together as a team. And again, I sense all of those leaders we've talked about today, as well as communicating, had this ability to bring the best out of the team that was around them. It wasn't just themselves that were out there. Yes, they were leading and, as you say, speaking about it, but they knew there was people around them that were of great support also.
And I'd say that I always say the best communicators are the best listeners. So all those people there, they listen. They listen to what the people are saying, what people are saying to them. So the best communicators, not one just talker. The best communicators are the best listeners, because they understand, and then their words are a result of what they've heard and what they're feeling, what's going on around them.
Wonderful. And the closing thing I felt drawn to pull upon with what you've been speaking about in these 4 leaders, and it's this quote on leadership, and I will have to look up who said it, but I found it, but I just like it. And it says, actually, leadership is at its core is about making other people better as a result of your presence, and making sure that impact lasts in your absence. So really about leaving this legacy. And when I read that the other day, I just thought, actually, for me, that relates to these leaders, that they just didn't have an impact in that moment. Their presence continues, and it continues to have an impact. And I think when you were talking about Nelson Mandela and that excitement about meeting him, it's quite clear him and the others have this presence and this lasting impact, I think. And one final thing I wanted to ask you, actually, is, because I know in my connection with you, you've been tweeting and writing articles about Black Lives Matter. It kind of builds on the other one. It's just an impromptu question, really, because I feel it's one I want to ask, is here in the UK or the States, or actually the worldwide, what single thing would we've spoken, we've seen yourself, we've heard the press speak about how difficult it can be for whether it's Black coaches, Black managers in football, whether it's Black coaches in business or Black leaders, how difficult it can for them to gain traction, to actually, as you say, play to their strengths in a way that they have a level playing field. What one thing would you like to see to make a real difference through Black Lives Matter, or for Black people throughout the world, in, let's say, in business?
I just believe that it just needs to be a level playing field. And everyone like wants to be the best and wants to, but you want a level playing field. So you want to be going for the role, knowing that, and not because I'm Black, they're white, or they're Asian, that, you know, it might be that I didn't get it because my qualifications weren't as good. That way I can go away and work on my qualifications. I can't change if it's done on race. So you just want a level playing field, and I wrote a piece saying, you know, we need equity in order to get equality. So we need a little bit of help. We need change in order to get that equality. So when people just think equal, it's not just equal. Like, oh yeah, everyone gets an interview. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but once in an interview, if there's a panel of the same people doing the interview, that's had the same mindset they had from their great grandfather, put into them that, you know, we've got him, we like him because he's more same as us and he's going to be doing what we're doing and there's no change. So there needs to be a little bit different. So everyone wants a fair shot. So if there's a chance of getting managing director, well, there's a fair shot. If you work just as hard, whoever's worked hard, whoever's got the best qualification, whoever puts in the best numbers is going to be in the best chance of getting a role. So there has to be some, and the when people say equality, it's not just, okay, everyone's got an interview, because that's not what it is. It's not what people think is equal is not equal. Do you know what I mean? Everyone can see the game, but it's not equal if he's standing behind a tree and he's watching it on that seat and he's watching behind the fence because everyone's watching the game. He's got a rubbish seat, can't see what he's saying. But so that what equal doesn't always mean equal. Do you know what I mean? So that's why we're saying we need equity to make it equal. So if we get that, that's where obviously people saying about diversity, inclusion. Again, you know, you can include someone, but like you have to include them. Like, you know, they're saying diversity. Yes, just get some black people on the panel, but then now let them be authentic in there. Don't bring them in and say, now you have to be one of us. So stop being what you're doing. Yeah, you're in it. You're in the room, but shh, be quiet. Inclusion means they have to have their say to change the mindset and change the whole perspective of the room. Do you know what I mean? Have an influence, because that's what you're bringing them in for. So there is a lot of change. So for me, the whole Black Lives Matter, the movement's going on. Yes, you know, in America, it's much more powerful because there's killings. You know, over here, we worry about just getting stopped all the time and annoyed by getting stopped because we're black and getting stopped and searched and stopped and searched. But we don't have that fear. If we get stopped and searched, it might result in a death. So there's a different worry for us over here. When you're talking about business, like, is the opportunities that how many times do people get passed over, that get overlooked, and then the same people, you know, so what was once your peer now is your boss, and it keeps doing that. You're getting overlooked. Now you're too old because you've been in there too long, and then someone comes along and he's younger, so you just get overlooked. So, and until people start getting into that top room, it's never going to filter down the change. So there has to be some sort of change that allows equal, that allows everyone the equal opportunity. That's based on your content and not your color. You know, Martin Luther King 64 speech, I have a dream, based not on the color of your skin. Do you know what I mean? So that's what we're looking for. So you're thinking 60 years on and that dream has not come to fruition. It's like, we need change in that sense. And it just, but until it goes at the top and changes, then filters down, it won't be. And I think there'll be too many token gestures. But if you ask me what I'd like to see, like equity that equals equality, in the sense of people going up for roles and the chance of some of the top CEOs being black, and making them changes, or being in the top rooms, making the changes for everyone.
Thank you, Michael. And from our conversations, I know you're one of the, you know, the black leaders who are here to make a difference and to speak out and actually to bring your skills. We're just talking about your strengths, bring your strengths to the table. So my last question, and I always call it my Columbo just one more thing question, because Columbo always asked one more question.
Yeah.
And this is really about, in the background here, we can see on a video, and those that are listening, his background has this made leaders picture on it. What I wanted to ask is, you know, through your time, obviously, as a leader on the pitch with Leeds and Chelsea, you know, and you really walked your talk on that pitch. And then, you know, in this, you've used authentic a number of times in this conversation. You've authentically then be trained as a CEO, as an executive coach, and you're an inspirational speaker with your words, and also then wanting to help managers and leaders in their organizations. What I wanted to know is just to hear your offerings and your own resources through Made Leaders as to how you can come in and make a difference to organizations. So how can people get in touch with you, and what do you offer, Michael?
So my company, Made Leaders, www.madeleaders.co.uk, or get in touch, info@madeleaders.co.uk for inquiries. But what I concentrate on elite performance. So having an elite performing team will benefit any company. Having an elite performer will benefit any company. So I take the mindset that made myself and many other elite athletes, Premier League or sports, NBA, NFL, the qualities that made them successful. And I take that and I transfer it into individuals and give them that they can apply into their industry or profession. I'm not saying it's easy and not everyone could become elite. We know that. Elite is the 1% of population. But it's doable. It's possible. And it's not easy. If it was easy, everyone would do it. That's what you say. If it's easy, everyone would do it. So it's not easy. Can everyone become elite? No. But I believe that when I sit down with people, and if you want it, it's possible. So I go in and I have one-to-ones. I go in for teamwork over a period of time, or I go in and I can do a one-day workshop in all aspects. You know, a lot of some of my work is tailored. So people say, you know what, can you come in and deliver a talk on resilience? We know you've used that and I can come in and deliver a one-day workshop on resilience where people walking away and understand and get a deeper understanding on resilience and their own resilience and how they can benefit. And that's just an example. So Made Leaders is a company where, yes, we talk about leaders, and I will say leaders are made, not born. You know, yes, we have a starting off. It might be something you might have a great opportunity, but it has to be made. Just like talent, it takes you so far. So yes, you might be in a great environment, but to get to top, it needs to be worked on and watered every day, and worked on and watered every day. So my philosophy is I take the mindset of an elite athlete, the something that served me well for 20 years, and I transfer that into individuals in business. And like I say, when people are in business, I'm saying you have a 7 and 2 equals 9. You want success. So let's call 9 success. 7 and 2 is 9. I'm coming in and telling you that there's 5 and 4. So now you have 2 ways of getting to 9. I can even show you, 7 and 2, 6 and 3. So now you have, your mind is different. So when you're blocked a certain way, then it's like, I have an understanding, because usually people go, why I say I'm different is people go to coaches and maybe the HR but they have the 7 and 2 as well. So you're going 7 and 2 is 9. They're going, yeah, 7 and 2 is 9. So you're both stuck. Oh, 2 and 7. Oh, yes, right. But do you have someone coming that's different from a different industry, a different profession, just saying to you, this is another way of getting to success. Now you're different. Now that's where you benefit from everyone else. And it's just a mindset. So I say like elite performance is mindset equals talent and ability and a potential. So I'm taking your talent, your ability and your potential and creating and boosting up your mindset. And that's what I do as far as my elite performance coaching. So, World Made Leaders is something where people want to take themselves and set themselves apart from everyone else. They come to Made Leaders.
Wonderful. And I will put all that information in the details below on this podcast. And in these times of COVID, I'm guessing as well that you're available via Zoom across the world, because I know there's people from all over the world listen to this podcast. So those that are interested, do reach out to Michael, because I really love this aspect of, if you've got 7 + 2 = 9 and you want a different perspective, and perhaps as we've just heard of you speaking about the leaders, how they brought in different perspectives, get in touch with Michael and bring this, this elite mindset to the table in your business, and let him help you make a real difference in your organization. So Michael, thank you just so much for being on the show and for sharing your passion and your wisdom on these 4 great Black conscious leaders and their legacy for today. So thank you for being here.
No problem. Thank you, David.
And finally, I just want to thank all those listening to this podcast. And if you're willing, please do share a link to this podcast with those you think would truly benefit from it. Because I truly believe that now is the time for conscious leadership. And with all the inspiring, heartfelt work you as listeners are doing, I have no doubt that conscious leadership will become a thriving reality, making a difference for the greater good of all. So until next time, I'll leave you with a blessing from John O'Donoghue. May the light of your soul bless the work you do with the secret love and warmth of your heart. And so it is.